Marketing is a relatively new concept in the grand scheme of human history. In fact, if you think back to most of human history, goods and services were not really needed to be marketed because they were necessities like food and utilities that people would need to get through their daily life. And it wasn't until around World War II era when propaganda started to become a common strategy of uniting people around ideas that people started to notice how propaganda could also be used to drive more sales in the world of business. Now, while the principles of marketing have stayed relatively the same over the last 100 years, the technologies have varied widely. When we think back 100 years, billboards and pamphlets were the normal technology that were used to do marketing, whereas much soon after, the radio and the TV started to become more widely adopted. And if we think about today, we have social media and cookies that attempt to track us everywhere we go on the internet, delivering us hyper-personalized ads and reaching people all around the globe. Now, we are currently in an era where technology is changing so quickly that in the industry of marketing, people are having to keep up with the latest and greatest technologies in order to reach the most audience and have the most results in business. So in today's video, we'll be talking about how technology is changing the game of marketing and how you can win big with these technologies. So when we think about the present day, people can pretty much just whip up an ad within a few days or even minutes if they're just typing text and press a button, and that message can be blasted to millions of people if they have the budget for it. And this message can be reaching far corners of the earth that normally would not have been able to happen so easily just 100 years ago. This is thanks to the internet, and as the internet has become more and more widely adopted, the ability to spread messages when you have the right technology has become much more easy than ever before in the history of this planet. Before the internet, companies only had local reach, meaning they'd have to put up billboards or pamphlets in their local area or neighborhood in order to reach people. Or when the TV and the radio came out, it was more just a broad marketing message that everyone would see, and it was much more generalized and not targeted. Now with the internet, we have the ability to reach anyone we want, whenever we want, and it can be hyper targeted because there's all this data collected about every person and what their interests are, so that the advertisements they receive are much more relevant and therefore more efficient. Speaking of efficiency, if we look at the pre-internet era, efficiency was not very high. Although the new technologies were good at the time, it was hard to target people and there was a lot of dollars wasted. Companies would have to spend millions of dollars just to reach millions of people when only a fraction of those people were actually ideal target audience for the offer the business was selling. And at the same time, things moved a lot slower. If we think about the radio and TV, those inventions lasted for several decades, and now that we're in the internet era, new technologies for marketing are coming out faster and faster than ever before. So if we look at today's current era, things are much more efficient, but at the same time, things are changing so much faster, and that is the main challenge with marketing, is keeping up with all these crazy new technologies that make things more efficient. On top of that, there's 5 billion people currently who have access to internet across the entire world, half of which are people who have mobile devices like smartphones that are able to be used to access information or receive ads and marketing anywhere that person is in the world as long as they have service. And even more crazy, the number of people who have access to the internet is expected to grow drastically over the next few years. Right now, the expectation is that in India and China, these countries are going to add more users to the internet, meaning more people will have access to the internet in the next 3 years than there currently are people having access to internet in the US right now, which is 300 million people. So imagine more than 300 million people coming online in just the next few years. And who knows, maybe that number will even surpass more than 300 million. The whole point here is that more people are getting added to this global network that makes more people accessible using marketing technologies on the internet. And also there's more people out there competing for attention on the internet, forcing further innovation in the world of marketing. You see, the reality is that the internet is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to marketing technologies. Facebook changed its name to Meta in the last year. as it started to notice this trend and new technology starting to become usable in the world of marketing. Augmented reality, virtual reality, these are new concepts that might sound very distant, but are actually not too far off. In fact, companies like Zara and Nike have already created their own virtual stores, trying anything and everything in the world of quote unquote metaverse to be able to capture some sort of new marketing technology and get a more effective marketing strategy out there and beating all their competitors out by using these new technologies. Why is it that these companies are so confident and focusing on expanding into these new technologies? Well, there's hardware to back this up. Companies like Apple and Microsoft are coming out with brand new technologies. There's rumors that Apple is coming out with AR glasses as well as a VR headset, which, for my opinion, these mock-ups, which may or may not be true, look pretty awesome and are something that I'm sure many people will start to adopt, which is why these companies are starting to get ahead and figure out marketing in the metaverse now, so they're a leader when it comes time when people are actually using this on a regular basis. So when we look at social media today on our 2D screens or our TVs, where we might get mid-roll ads on YouTube, or we might even just get a social media ad on Facebook, when people start to use AR and VR, whether that be for work or pleasure, it's going to be much more common for marketing to be present in this environment as opposed to on social media. So we'll look at social media at some point and think how antique it is, much like how today we look at radios and TVs as an artifact. Combining these new technologies like AR and VR with the emerging trends in cryptocurrency, Web3, and NFTs, we have a perfect concoction of explosive change in the world of marketing. So if you'd like to keep up with the latest and greatest technologies and make sure you're staying ahead of the curve when it comes to your business, your career, or even your personal life and how you can use technology to create more leverage, I'll invite you to the Tech Powered Leaders Slack community. Drop in a link down below right now. It's free to join, and it's pretty much just a community of like-minded people who love keeping up with technology and, most importantly, using that technology to get more leverage. So once again, if you're interested in joining, I'll leave the link in the description below, and you're welcome to be a part of this community. Lastly, if you did want to understand a little bit more about how AR and VR are impacting the way that things are bought and sold online, I did make another video about this where I dive much more in detail. I'll link that below in the description as well if you'd like to check it out and dig deeper into this concept. That's it for today, folks, and thanks for watching.